Good afternoon. God bless you. My name is Patti Lee. This is Patti Lee TV. Thank you so much for taking the time out to sit and let me be in your living room or wherever you may be right now. I am the host of Patti Lee TV, and it has been approximately a year since I've been hosting a broadcast on Boston Neighborhood Network. I also am available on YouTube if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, Patti Lee TV. You can catch me as well on Facebook, Patti Lee TV. If you'd like to email me, you can email me at pattileetv@gmail.com. And the reason why I have been catapulted, I believe, onto this platform is because of some of the injustices that I have personally been exposed to, having to do with my son being violently shot down on Boylston Street near where the Boston Marathon bombing happened. I started to know, this was August 22nd, 2013. And when I buried my son, I started to afterwards notice that this was something that was very common in our community. There were a lot of shootings. My son actually was shooting 117 from the April Boston Marathon bombing to August 22nd. For me, that number just seemed very appalling, very high. And I started to get involved with different organizations and activists like Mothers for Justice and Equality, Pastor Kim Odom, the Peace Institute, Pastor Bruce Wall, and Global Ministry Christian Church, and just so many different advocates that make the community and what's happening in our community their business. And they surrounded me to help me kind of figure out, what to do and how to advocate, at the same time dealing with emotional trauma, dealing with, a 22-year-old that had everything to live for, leaving behind 2 daughters, 4 years old and 2 years old, and leaving a community of people behind that really loved him, be them Black, Asian, Hispanic, white. All of them would refer to my son as my brother. And so everyone was impacted by this loss. And I just, every month would have a prayer vigil on Boylston Street asking people to come out and make noise. How can in Boston, where we have such a diverse community, we have a mecca of universities and colleges, we have so many different institutions of universities and hospitals, and we just have a lot of resources. And for me, it was baffling to see the violence that was going on in our community, and still kind of is going on, that a few people feel like they can just run rampant and kill and shoot, and our kids walk in fear of their lives. I thought it was just completely unfair to us as a community. And I used the platforms that were available, Touch 106.1 FM with Charles Clemens and Sunshine in the City, who also marched with me, along with Priscilla Flint and other people, Lion of Judah, and just different people. And, just really looking at when I would go to the victim assistance, and I would almost be treated as shut up, sit down. And I was like, I can't believe, these are people that are supposed to be advocating for me and just making noise. Every time something would happen, I would report on it in my lay position. I am a lay person in the community. I am just a common person in the community. And just seeing that, just so many different people are being fueled money to be advocates and to be in certain positions to help me around this whole thing, and just seeing how it didn't work for me. It just seemed like a big system of a mess. And So 2 weeks ago, this is March. No, it was February, sorry. February 21st, I did receive a call from the detectives, and they told me that an arrest was made. The grand jury made an indictment against Michael Jordan, 27, from Roxbury. So my son is a beachhead of 334 cases in our community that was under investigation. Why are there so many unresolved murders and shootings happening in our community? So people are being held accountable. People are doing their job. And I'm just so happy that, you know, people are getting justice, that our children's lives do matter. And we have to take action. We have to get up. We have to take part. And with that, I'd like to introduce my guests for this evening. I have author, activist, and co-founder Priscilla Flint of, you can introduce your...
The Black Economic Justice Institute. I'm the co-founder and program director.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming out
Thank you
tonight.
for inviting me, Patty. I appreciate it.
Yes, and if you could introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Curtis Rollins. I am the organizing director with the Boston Workers Alliance.
Great. And if you could introduce yourself?
And I'm Damian Oquenedo. I'm just a community member and also with the Boston Economic Justice Institute.
Okay, great. Thank you so much again for coming on the broadcast tonight and sharing what you do, because it takes all of us. We're not just. We are so important. We are a very important resource in our community. Priscilla, if you could tell me what sparked your enthusiasm to start the Black Economic Justice Institute?
Well, we were, I'm a retired City of Boston employee. I worked for the City of Boston for over 15 years running their payroll. I also wrote a book. I look back and wonder how I got over. So after my book came out, I retired from the city. And I found out that there was things going on in the community that wasn't fair. So we first started off with the Ferdinand building. And we were on the monitoring committee to monitor the process of them with the job standards, which said that there should be 50% Boston residents, 25% people of color, and 10% female. And we as the monitoring committee, we were looking at numbers that said that, but the people didn't reflect that. So we protested. We started protesting at the Ferdinand building to get them to bring their numbers up. And from there, we went to 225 Center Street. We was out in Chinatown with...
What's that? I'm sorry. What's that 225 Center Street?
It's that new building right across from Jackson's, right near Jackson Square.
Mm-hmm.
It's an apartment building and it's retail space. And we found out that they didn't meet their numbers either. And also the number of minority contractors. There were some companies that were saying that they were minority contractors, but they really weren't. So we actually protested over there from October to March of 2013. I mean, we were out there in the rain, in the snow, you know. And so then it was at that time that we started meeting people like Marty Walsh before he became the mayor, some of the business agents from the unions. And we said, listen, you all have this ordinance that's in place, but you're not adhering to it. And then we started a working group. We worked with Ayanna Presley and former City Council Mike Ross to change what the ordinance said, because they kept saying it's unconstitutional, we can't enforce it. I'm like,
what do you mean? The numbers of minorities or
Boston resident. And,
okay.
And this ordinance was written by the late Bruce Boland.
Okay.
And so because Boston residents, people of color, and females weren't getting on these job sites, it was basically white because a lot of them were union. And it's still like that. You know, I mean, there are some people of color, but not nearly as many as there should be.
Okay, so you really focus on workers and labor. You don't work on maybe like the equity and how much housing is
well, we're trying to stop the gentrification that's going on in our community, because with the Ferdinand building there, So the rental spaces in the Dudley area are now being tripled. Like, there was some space that was $13 a square footage. Now it's $26 per square footage. So everything's going up. Pricing
rent.
of the housing, one bedroom apartment, $1,700 a month.
Wow.
They're selling houses for $1 million and something on Fort Hill. So these are the things that's happening. This causes gentrification.
Right.
So we work with Chinatown, with Millennium Partners and the Ink Block. I don't know if you've seen the new Whole Foods and the new Ink
Yes.
Block building.
Yes.
So we was out in East Boston with the Neighbors United for East Boston, right,
Okay.
around the airport. And so we basically decided that it was time for our community to stand up and take a stand for good jobs.
Okay.
So that brought us to this current year where Tropical Food in Madison Park, have you seen the new Tropical Foods building?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's built now.
Oh,
But
wow.
before they built it, they went to the Oversight Committee and the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan Oversight Committee, which gives designation to some different parcels that are in Roxbury that need to be developed.
I see.
And they put in writing that they were going to pay the workers $50 an hour to build the new Tropical. We found out that they were only paying them $11 to $15.
Oh, my
and we said, this is not acceptable because most of the people that were on that job site look like us.
Right.
But meanwhile, right next door, they had a union job that was paying the rate, okay?
see.
And so this was a non-union contractor.
Is there any way that, like, if they don't follow the ordinance, that they would get, I know we get tickets for certain
They're
things.
supposed
We
to.
get, right.
Right.
So how do we hold
It's
people
not-
accountable?
It hasn't been.
for
It hasn't
that?
happened yet. The
Wow.
ordinance says that if a contractor is out of compliance, they should pay $300 per day per trade. That has never happened in the 30 years that the ordinance has been in place. So we've been working with the city to make the ordinance so that it's constitutional. They say that we cannot stop people from coming from New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, from working here. So we're trying to work it so that there's something that can be done to make it enforceable. Because just imagine if it was enforced, they would have to pay a lot of fines, and maybe
Right.
our community would be in a better situation than it is now.
Right. I think that you're so true, because I think people are trying to work to make ends meet,
Yes.
and are not able to stay in a city that is growing at such a fast pace economically. And I don't think that's very fair to the community that's already here,
Exactly.
that has established so many different things. Mr. Rollins, could you please tell us how the Black Workers Alliance, Boston Workers Alliance, is working along with BEJI?
Well, we work along with BG, along with other organizations in the Boston Jobs Coalition.
Okay.
That is the coalition that we have formed in order to help with the current campaign, Good Job Standards, that is going on when I call her Auntie Priscilla is talking about with the tropical food issue, and currently also the Urbanica Hotel that we are also looking to hopefully talk with them, and with them doing the right thing when it comes to development within our neighborhoods.
Right.
To be clear with everybody, we are, as a coalition, looking for developers to do the right thing in Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, the same way that they do in other communities in Boston, in Rosendale, West Roxbury, Hyde Park, South Boston,
South End.
South End, thank you very much, and Back Bay, let's just
Exactly.
be real with it.
That's right. Yes.
Where when they develop in those areas, they're not exploiting
Their workers.
the community
Right.
in order to make a dollar.
Right.
So why exploit the community or those that are living in those neighborhoods that you're developing in Roxbury, in Dorchester, and Mattapan, just because they're of a different demographic than those in Back Bay, in Upper South End, West Roxbury, so on and so forth. So Boston Workers Alliance being a Black Worker Center, we look to assist a lot of those people within the community with, one, a lot of Corey advocacy. That's one of the main purposes for our organization. We're started because of Councilor Chuck Turner with the Corey advocacy work that was much needed within both the city, and then reaching out into the Commonwealth when it comes to people that have served their time, looking to being able to both work and also get housing.
Right.
And to have that opportunity and not have their past be a detriment to them with
Right.
that opportunity. So we work with getting people to have their to getting a copy of their Corey, and also with getting a being able to seal that Corey once it's able to be sealed, once the infractions have timed out.
Right.
To
So
back
with the Corey, I know that I knew a few people that lived in housing, and because they had somebody that had a Corey living with them, they were made to leave their home, although they didn't have any kind of issues. And sometimes that makes me think, everyone isn't treated the same legally, and housing is such an important part of our life, to have a stable place to live and reside. If we don't have somewhere stable to live, how can we get ourselves together and not fall back into different maybe bad habits or things like that? How do we become stable? I think it's really excellent what you guys are doing, mobilizing people. It's up to us to come out and to show people that, these are things that affect us, and we want change. We want to be able to thrive in a community that is growing at exponential rates. Could you please tell us about what's going on Monday?
Okay, so Monday is the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan Oversight Committee Working Group. They usually meet every first Monday of the month, and they listen to developers talk about the development that's coming through that they want to develop, and they are the ones that say yay or nay. If they approve the development, it goes to the BRA for final approval. So
Who are they?
who are the Roxbury Oversight Committee?
Yes.
Okay, so they're community people that live in our community, and they either live in our community or work in our community.
Okay.
And some of them, they have our skin, but they are not our kin, if you know what I mean.
Oh, wow.
And so, basically, what happened with the tropical foods thing is that the Tropical Foods and Madison Park Community Development Corp promised to pay the workers, and they didn't. And so we realized then, well, this is the first project with partial Urbanica, Crescent Lot, Whittier Street, all these partials are coming up.
Right.
If we let Tropical and Madison Park get away with paying these workers $11 to $15 an hour, they'll want to do it for all the projects.
Right.
And so that's what we came up with the good job standards. And there's about, the Boston Jobs Coalition has about maybe 35 member organizations, but there were some core organizations that really worked around this, put the language together, worked hard, did the protesting, brought people to the meetings, because prior to us really getting involved, you go to the meetings and there'd be like maybe 20 people at the meeting. This is supposed to be a community meeting.
Right.
So when we start organizing people and outreach, and the last meeting we had last Monday, we had over 200 people there. You know, we
Excellent.
brought the media there, and we said, and so we worked with the oversight committee to look at the good job standards, for them to approve them, and for them to vote on them. And they were supposed to vote in January. They didn't vote, so they this coming Monday, we're expecting them to vote. And so that's why we want the community there, because the community has been there and they have been talking, and they have, expressed their feelings about, we can't live here because we're being gentrified out. you know?
Right,
And so that's what we're hoping, that people will come and let their voices be heard.
Right, excellent. I would love for you to chime in as a member of our community and volunteer. Why do you think it's important to volunteer and be a part of a movement here in Boston?
I think it's more important for me just because I've been here my whole life, and I've realized now, getting older and maturing, that there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of misery that needs to get solved and heal the community. And one thing that I realized is us coming together as a people, we can get a lot of these issues solved, and at the same time work together to make a new environment for us. We have a lot of oppressive systems against us that don't want us to connect with each other.
When you say oppressive systems, like as a young person in the community, a minority, what are some of the things? Can you be specific?
Just white supremacy as a whole, and just
Or like if you're trying to get a job, what kind of jobs are available to you?
So basically, when you come up from the community, depending on if you haven't got caught in the law or getting caught in these traps or these systems, just you're usually put in positions where you can only get menial jobs. And if you get an education, you can get something a little bit better, but still, you're still placed in certain boxes. So one thing that I've realized now is just, it's gonna take a lot more action of us as a whole to try to change these systems and to try to intervene and come up with solutions for these problems. Because one thing that I see is that the system's not gonna change itself, and it's really dependent on us to change the system and change our community's perception as a whole and against the system too.
Excellent, excellent. That makes me proud to see young people come out and make make different issues their business, because you live here. These are things that impact you. These are things that impact your community, your life, your children's lives, you know. And if you don't say anything, how will people know?
That's right.
If you don't show up, how will people know that in this very lucrative society that we live in, we're having like a serious issue? I don't know if someone out there, if you would like to chime in, if you have a comment, if you have a question, please call in 617-708-3280. If you have any questions for Priscilla or the activists here, feel free to call 617-708-3280. You're watching Patti Lee TV live at the BNN studios, and I just like to thank you again for coming and joining us, and thank you for all the people here at BNN, the crew that helped make this production possible. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you, Patti.
Thank you, thank you. Again, if you would like to call, the number is 617-708-3280. I'm here with community activists talking about just labor laws, the disparities that we face in our community with working, with housing, with so many different things, when there's billions of dollars that come into this city, and why is there an inequity in our community? Why can't our children that are 25 years old find a job where they can afford to live in the same city that their parents, their grandparents, great-grandparents have paid taxes in? Why is it that other people can come here, go to school, flourish? Why is it that our children have to mortgage out their lives with college loans? You know,
right.
I just don't, there's so many injustices, and I see other people come here and do very well.
That's true.
You know, they can take care of, they love Boston, they want their kids to go to the best universities, they want to have the nice house, you know, and why can't our children have the same thing?
That's so true.
You know, so we have to get up. We have to make a difference. We have to show up at meetings. Sometimes we might be tired, we work a lot, but it's not in vain. Know that God is seeing you. God is watching you, and he hears your prayer. And that's how I feel about my son. I prayed and I also acted. I prayed and I acted. I showed up. I knew that there were certain things that I needed to do to get justice. But God is the God of justice, and now because of that, you know, my son's case is a beachhead in other unresolved murders being resolved as well, and murderers coming off of our streets. We need to have peaceful streets.
That's right.
We need to
That's
have
right.
peaceful streets. We need to be able to flourish as well.
That's
We
right.
need to have our kids that are 25 years old. I don't mean to call you kid.
That's
You're a young man, and both of you young men. To be able to walk down the street and
That's
feel
right.
okay and not feel like you're living in apartheid.
That's right.
You know, I
And be
think
able to
it's-
go wherever they want in the city, you know?
Exactly,
Wherever they
exactly,
want.
and not be frisked down
Yes.
and not be, you know, there are just so many things that we're dealing with. But could you tell me why did you get involved with the BWA?
Well, when I moved back to Boston from Houston, I was looking for work, as everybody does. You
Right,
know,
right.
you relocate to a location, or you move back home. You want to look for work, and BWA was a resource that I was told by my aunt and my uncle-in-law to utilize. They might be able to help me with work. With finding work. But once I was going there to, you know, help strengthen my resume, I actually was more interested in volunteering with a lot of the campaigns that they were doing. So I got more involved with not job searching, even though I still needed work.
Right, right.
But I really stepped out on faith and was like, you know, if I show that I can work hard in volunteering, a job might come my way.
Right.
And sure enough, in the volunteer capacity, Boston Workers Alliance took notice and said, hey, we have a position opening up. Would you be interested in?
Excellent.
You know, it was something that I never thought about, but it catered to my personality. If anybody knows me as a quote unquote troublemaker, or somebody that, not a troublemaker, but somebody that questions those that think that they are in an authoritative position. Or, you know, you have to question things. You have to, and also you have to know that as an individual, you do have power that those authoritative or those people that are in positions of power don't want you to know that you have. And I want to be in that position to tell others, hey, you have as much power as the next person, as much power as me, and you need to utilize it. So I use my voice and I use this position just to be, you know, a megaphone for other people.
Excellent.
I want
Excellent.
I want other people to speak through me. I want them to just be able to use me as an example. And it's like, hey, he can do it. I want to be able to speak, and I'm more than willing to step back and let them continue to speak their mind, because there are a lot of issues that are going on within the neighborhood that I don't know.
Yes.
That they need to say.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We are here in the studio live at BNN, Patti Lee TV. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back right after this.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
So shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Hi, I'm Patti Lee, and this is Patti Lee TV. And I thank you for tuning in tonight. I am host tonight, Patti Lee. And I'd also like to just let people know, if you would like to come out to support me during this journey that I will be having, going to trial, April 14th, there will be a collection of evidence, and I guess they will be swapping evidence at the Suffolk Superior Court, April 14th. That is behind Center Plaza in the old building, and it will be on the 9th floor at 2 p.m. That's April 14th at the Suffolk Superior Court. And this is regarding my son's case, Amir Ariel Lee. And his murderer was arrested 2 weeks ago. And I just praise God that he's the one that executes justice. And justice is being served. And I know that there's one less person with a gun on the street, even though I'm sentencing him way too soon, but I know that when we take action in our community, when we are consistent, when we're persistent in our pursuit of seeking justice for our community, we prevail. God prevails. And with that, I'd just like to again thank you for being here with me, BEJI, Black Workers Alliance, Boston Workers Alliance. I done baptized y'all with a different name. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Your voice is so important for, you know, being a young person in the community, dealing with so many different things. Hi, caller. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you please tell us your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Kevin, and I'm calling from Dorchester.
Hi, Kevin from Dorchester.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
And my question is, what's the point of having affirmative action if it's not enforced to use for people of color?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, because I had a problem hearing you.
What's the point of having affirmative action if the city of Boston isn't enforcing it?
Right, and I mean that, I don't know if it's a cynical question, but that's why we have to come out and we have to organize and make sure that things are upheld in our community. A lot of times we already know what the issues are. We know that there's a lot of violence. We know that there's inequity, but we have to come out. We have to, like Monday, there is going to be something held at
It's
in
gonna
Roxbury.
be at the Boston Police. They
Yeah,
changed it. It was going to be at the Elderly Services, but it's being changed to the Boston Police. And I just want to say, I really believe they did away with affirmative action a while ago. And so by them doing away with affirmative action, that really doesn't give a lot of workers and people access. And so that's why we have to rise up in the streets and advocate for ourselves.
Right.
You know, it's just like the same thing around housing. You know how people go and they apply for housing, and because the way they look, they don't get the housing. But
Right.
then someone that doesn't look like us, they go and they get the housing.
Right.
And now they're having people do tests, you know, where you could go, you could pretend you're so-and-so and you're applying for an apartment, and they don't give it to you, and then they turn around and give it to another person that doesn't look like you. Well, they have people that are actually doing, you know, these types of tests, so the people, you never know. And it's, unfortunately, it's sad, but I really believe that they just did away with affirmative action.
You wanted to say something?
Just real quick, one thing that I do want to say is, as far as the community, we just have to understand and realize that this has been going on for a while. So it's not as this is something new, or that there hasn't been books written on this, or just people that observe what's already going on. I think one thing we have to start doing as a community is revolutionizing our thinking and our approach to a disrespectful system, when a system that's not going to just grant us social equality regardless of what we're trying to do. So I think it comes to really sitting and dedicating time to come up with
Solutions.
a solution and an active plan to really counteract with what we're going against.
Right. And not only that, I think like with the meetings that you had, and we see that the certain things weren't enforced, so now what? Like, what are the action steps that we can take as a community? That's something else. Like, I know they did a lot of protests,
Right.
but
we
how
tell people,
effective is a midnight protest? Wouldn't a midday protest be more, you know?
well, they
I mean,
do
when
it
you're
to be
shutting-
disruptive, you know, to make people stand up and look, you
Right,
know?
right.
And so that's why when I speak to people, I say, you should be at those hearings that happen at City
Right.
Hall. You should be at those hearings that happen at the State House. You should be at your community meeting. And I know a lot of people work, they're tired, but I always say, if you can't come, send somebody, because they make decisions downtown that affect us, and we have no control over it, you know?
If we're
so,
not there.
Right, because we're not there, you know?
Right.
So who's going to come back and tell us, those of us that are working, those of us that are in the community that can't come, you know, who's going to be down there telling us what's going on? And we also have to hold our elected officials accountable, you know? Our elected officials, when something's going on, then, you know, we need to call them and say, listen, you need to be at this meeting.
Right.
Or, you know, what's going on with this bill, or what's going on with this, you know? And that's that's another way that we get our voice out, is through our elected officials, because we have to remember, we elect these people.
That's right.
And every year there's an election. This year is a city council, next year is the state, you know? So every other year there's a city council, and every other year there's a state election. So we need to be mindful of that. They don't teach civics in school anymore. They don't teach Black history. So we have to teach our own children. We have to educate them in the house. We have to start having Saturday schools. We have to start having evenings where we just teach our children about their history. Because if we leave it to the school department, they'll have us thinking that we were born slaves, and that's not true.
Right.
You know, and so we have to really educate ourselves. And there's a lot of things, good information on TV, you know, like on YouTube, like the what is it, Hidden Color series. I mean, it's a powerful series about our real history.
Right.
You know, everything they've always stolen from us. They're always taken from us. You know, it's time for us to start taking back.
And I just
By
want to kind of
organizing.
harp on the efforts that you had with Millennial
Millennium Partners?
Millennium, yes, partners that constructed a few buildings in downtown. In Chinatown. Because of all of that effort, the community started to organize and make a land trust in Chinatown.
Yes.
So they can't be gentrified. They can't be thrown out because they have that land trust. If we organize, we could have things like that in Roxbury, where we have land trusts, so we have assets secured and won't be put out of our community. So I think, with all of these different efforts, we need to look at things like that. Economic justice, we need to have a level playing field where we can stay here.
That's so true.
I want to take from one of my professors in college where we've had such an unlevel playing field for so long. We don't need a level playing field. We need to unlevel it or skew it in our direction.
Right.
Because, to be clear, the reason why, we our neighborhoods are so, the people in our neighborhoods are so tired at the end of the day from working and unable to go to these community meetings, unable to go to these hearings, unable to go to these meetings at the State House, at City Hall, at their local community rooms, are intentional. It is intentional to keep the public unaware, or the majority of the public unaware of what's going on around them. And I, for one, would not want to live in an area where I had no control over what's going on in my area. And so I, again, want to be in that position to show people that, hey, you have the power to hold these people accountable to your neighborhood.
Right.
And yes, it might be tiring, but take these couple of hours to come to this community meeting and tell those powers that be, your city councilor, your state representative, your state senator, your mayor, your councilor general, whoever is that elected official that's going to be there, your mind. And what is needed in your neighborhood.
Right. They should never be unattainable, unreachable. I know that when I was going through with my son, we marched to the State House, and we did meet Carlos Enriquez, and we met with Byron Russian, and I kind of laid everything out, what I'm dealing with as a lay person, going to different places, to state agencies that are supposed to be civil or servants. They're supposed to serve me. I'm not supposed to feel less than, demeaned, or like a single mom that, and my son was some, drug dealer and this and, no, wait a minute. My son was murdered. My son was murdered on Boylston Street with surveillance cameras. There was so much, why am I being treated like this? My son can't advocate for himself. I've been advocating for him since he was young, for different issues that he had with just motor skills, and everything is like so much work. But now that he doesn't have a voice, I have to be that voice for him. So, I just felt like I can't lay down and do nothing, and I feel like things started to move. And people might have been mad, but oh well. You're going to have to deal with me because I'm the public and you have to serve me.
And we pay you.
That's right. I don't have to
Our tax-paying dollars pay our elected officials.
My taxpayers' money, my mother's taxpayers' money, my grandparents and great-grandparents, and we know that slaves, they were working for free to make this country what it is. So I don't feel no way. I'm going to open my mouth. I'm going to make as much noise. And that's what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
You have something you want to say?
And to build upon what you're saying is this: we just need to be unapologetic about what we want what we need. Because if not, the disrespect is really, it's just upon always head. But if not, man, they're just going to keep doing it. So we really have to just be unapologetic about how we feel and truthful,
Right.
and just get these things done.
Right, right, yep. And it takes all of us. I mean,
That's right.
there's so many different people that came alongside, you know. It was different organizations, different activists, my state elected officials, you know. I mean, I'm banging on every door.
That's right.
You know, it's a whole community. What's going on here? You know, why are there so many shootings? Why, you know, yeah, this is wrong. This is so wrong. This
And
should
it
not
seems
be
like it's our
happening.
community. Roxbury,
Yeah.
Dorchester, Mattapan. For the last 20, 30 years, we've been
Right.
oppressed, depressed, and suppressed.
Right.
You know, and they
And
confuse
trauma.
us, they abuse us, you
In
know.
trauma.
Exactly.
This is not
it's
a place that we need to be acting out of trauma.
Exactly.
you know?
Imagine every day you hearing sirens going through, or you know, you walk by up your street and you see yellow tape and, you know, bodies laid out in the street. I mean, this is the way that they do our community. And we as a
Well,
community.
not anymore, right? There are things happening,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
There are
look,
things
yeah,
happening.
they-
People are coming down,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
People are watching what's going on. Because, you know, you can only do so wrong for so long. God will put people up, but he'll also take
Tear
them
'em
down.
down. That's right.
He'll give people an opportunity to repent and turn from their wicked ways.
That's right.
And when they don't, well, they're in his hands. And that's how
right.
I look at it, and that's how I pray. Because my God is a God of justice, and I've been seeing that, you
That's
know?
right,
I've
that's
been
right.
seeing that.
It took some time, but you know, you held in there, you persevered.
Amen. I'll
you
never
know?
let go of God.
That's right.
He'll never let go of me.
That's
So-
right. That's
That's
right.
right. That's right. So, you know, God bless you for what you do, and I pray that he multiply you, you know, and that you have his perfect peace that surpasses human understanding to keep you as you walk in all of these different places, the mountains that he's called you in, and that you would just stand up in your spirit and take on that mountain knowing that you're not by yourself. There's a heavenly host that's encamped round about you, that keeps you, that wars on your behalf. And I just praise God for you and your spirit and what he's doing and what he's gifted you in. And I just pray that he multiply the workers around you, that they would stand up, that they would get up, that they would know that they have a clarion call on their life, for this is the season and this is the time.
That's
This
right.
is the season and
That's
this is the
right.
time.
That's right.
You know, and we will see God work mightily in our community. You know, he hasn't forsaken us, and he will never leave us.
No.
Never.
And
right.
I just want to build upon one more thing. If you study in ancient African times, we basically had an overstanding on how God worked in relation to us. So it's basically just primarily going back to our relationship with God and then making that understanding more known to us as all as a people, because God does exist, even though most of us may not hear him or feel that he's there, but he is there.
Yes,
and it just takes us building our relationship with however we want to call it, but building our relationship with that intelligence and making it be known that we have to change, and it's going to change regardless if we want to or we don't want to. The change is going to come and it's going to happen.
It is. It is.
Amen.
The God
Change
in
is
you
gonna
will
come.
make it change.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. So can you please tell us again, Monday at 6 p.m. you will
at
be meeting?
Police at B2 Police Station.
Where's that? I have
It's
no
right
idea.
there, Dudley, right across from the new police station that they built,
Oh,
right in
wow.
Dudley Station. And there is going to be a community meeting with the Roxbury Oversight Committee. They are expected to vote on the good job standards that the Roxbury Dorchester campaign and the Boston Jobs Coalition put together, and they are expected to vote on it. We are looking for the vote. We expect the vote. And I just want to say if the vote don't happen, it's not going to be, people are not going to be happy, because we've been working on this 6 months.
Wow.
So-
Okay. But no, and we just be consistent and persistent,
Yeah.
consistent and persistent, because you don't know when that wall is going to fall. You just
That's
have to keep hitting that wall.
That's right.
Keep hitting it,
That's
keep
right.
hitting. You might be that far away.
But we
you
are
know?
the people, and we have the power. We just
That's
have to
right.
realize it, that we do have power.
That's right.
And we've seen that over the last 6 or 7 months, how people have just continued to come to these meetings. People have
Beautiful.
continued to speak out, you know.
Right, right.
And so, you know, we're not stopping. God didn't put us here to do nothing.
That's
And so
right. That's right. We are
we're
people
blessed
with
to be
purpose.
able to do what we do.
Excellent, excellent. I know we were talking about Miss Mary and how she did the sleeping at the
Mary Franklin. Yes.
Mary Franklin at the police station.
At the police station, yes. She stayed there for 3 nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
By herself.
Wow.
You know, and
Bless
I'm telling
her.
you. And see, we have to do different things, you know, to get different results. You
Right.
know? Because we keep doing the same thing, expect different results. That's insanity.
It is insanity.
You know,
We
so.
do have to come together.
Yes.
We
yeah.
have to care for each other.
That's right.
We
And
have
love
to
one another.
love one another.
Yes.
I have to care about what happens to you and your family and
That's
your
right.
children, because that could be me.
That's right. That's right.
That could be me and my family, my children, my grandchildren, and if I don't care, I used to have a lot of time to go out and party and club and get all cute and everything, you know, but I have to have time for me and my purpose, my
That's
call.
right.
What
That's
is it
right.
that I'm supposed to be doing? What is it that if there's something that's bothering me, usually that's where I'm supposed to be making noise, right? Violence and women in trauma.
That's
And
right.
Liz Walker is actually doing something too.
Yes, Reverend Liz Walker's church. It's called Our Stories, Our Voices, and they're in partnership with Still Harbor and Brigham and Women's Hospital, and they have they have programs where you come in and you talk about your trauma, if you like, or you can get a one-on-one community companion. And if you're really in a bad situation, you can be referred, you know, to a medical clinician.
Oh,
But
I see.
Reverend Walker is doing some great things at Roxbury Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
And, you know, we're thankful and grateful because, you know, the churches have to open up a little bit more too. They have to get more involved. You know, a lot of these churches are just sitting back and they're not doing anything. And it's not fair because a lot of the people that are dying are coming from these different churches. And I feel like the pastors and the ministers in the church sometimes need to come out their doors. They need to be at some of these community meetings so they can hear what's going on, because they are the ones that's burying their congregants. You know, they are the ones that congregants don't have good jobs. They are the ones that, you know, congregants are homeless.
Right.
And so, I put a call out to the pastors. Y'all need to get on board.
In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name.
That's
Could you
right.
please give us your contact information, Curtis Rollins?
Yes. If anybody needs assistance with Corey information, they can contact the Boston Workers Alliance at 617-635. Oh, excuse me.
65, that's City Boston.
I was about to give you the mayor's hotline number. I'm sorry. 617-606-3580. If you still have snow on your streets and you have trash on your streets, you call the mayor's hotline at 617-635-4500.
Say your number
But
again.
my number is 617-606-3580.
3580, great. And could you please give your contact information?
Okay, so we're the Black Economic Justice Institute. Our office is at 7 Cheney Street in Dorchester. Our phone number is 908-800-2354. And our email is BEJII2014@gmail.com.
Okay, great. And thank you once again. The hour
Thank
is
you.
upon us.
Yes.
I appreciate you for coming out, for all that you're doing in our community. And thank you for joining me for another Patti Lee TV production. Have a good evening.